Welcome, I'm Seema from Edufinite. In this video, I'll be explaining what are verbals, what are infinitives, what are infinitive phrases, what are bare infinitives, what are split infinitives. I'll help you to clear your concepts on the topic. Hope it is beneficial for you. If you have any queries, you can write to me in the comment section. One more thing, as the video was getting too long, I'll make a separate video for comparison of infinitives and gerunds. The link to it will be provided in the description box. The link to my other video on the verbals will also be provided in case you need to revise it. Now let us delve into the topic. Well, what are verbals? Now, before I begin, I'd like to say that if you've already gone through my video on gerunds and participles, then you can skip this and move on to what are infinitives. But those who are new, you can stay on and let's continue. Now, what are verbals? A verbal is a verb form that does not function like a verb. Then what does it do? It functions as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. You can think it as an actor who is playing the role of a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Now, there are three types of verbals. The first one is gerunds. And how do they look like? We have already said that they look like verbs. So let's see how do they look like. Well, examples are jumping, breaking, saving, learning, seeing, doing. So these are gerunds. They look like verbs, but they do not function as verbs. The next one is participles. In participles, we have both the forms present participle as well as the past participle. And examples are jumping and jumped. So jumping, ing is the present participle, and the third form of the verb is the past participle. So jumping and jumped, breaking and unbroken, saving and saved, learning and learned, seeing and seen, doing and done. So, and the third type is infinitives. So, how do the infinitives look like? So, it's to jump, to break, to save, to learn, to see, and to do. So, here we can see that the three types of verbals, they all look like verbs, but their functions are different. They don't function as a verb in the sentence. So here I'll be describing about the infinitives, but to know about gerunds and participles, you can refer to my video on the topic. The link will be provided in the description box. Now, let's move on. Now, what are infinitives? An infinitive is a verbal that are created from verbs. What is the form? To plus base verb, but does not function like a verb. So this is very important. It does not function like a verb. It functions like a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. So let's look into its functions. How does it function like a noun, an adjective, or an adverb? Now, when it functions like a noun, what does it do? It occupies the same position in a sentence that a noun normally would. That is, either as a subject or a direct object or a subjective complement. It will occupy the position that the noun usually does in a sentence. Next, when it functions as an adjective, it modifies a noun and follows it. That means it will be just beside the noun that it will be modifying. So that is important. Next, when it functions as an adverb, it modifies a verb. So just as an adverb would, so here too, the infinitive, which will be modifying a verb, will function as an adverb. Now let's look into some of the examples to understand it a little better. To cheat is a crime. So here, understanding infinitives or locating infinitives is very easy. because by their look, you can easily recognize them because you'll always have to beside them. So, verb and a to before it. So, that's the infinitive. So, here to cheat. Easily we can say that's the infinitive. And what is the infinitive functioning as in this sentence? It is used here as a noun. Why? Because it is the subject of the verb is. So just as a noun is a subject of the verb, so here too, this infinitive is behaving or functioning as the subject of the verb, which is. So it is functioning as a noun and not as a verb. Now, how do we understand whether it's functioning like a noun or not? Suppose we replace to cheat with cheating. Then what happens? The sentence becomes cheating is a crime and it functions like a noun. So, it does not function like a verb. So, this is an infinitive which is functioning like a noun. So, just as I said, this is the subject of the sentence which is the function of a noun. Next, let's look into the other sentence. We all hate to cheat. Again, to cheat, very identifiable. That's the infinitive. And now here, what is the function of the infinitive? Well, it is functioning as the direct object of the verb hate. So that's how a noun functions. So it's functioning as a noun over here. Next, my hobby is to draw. So again, to draw, to plus the base verb. So that's the infinitive, very identifiable. And how is it functioning over here? Well, over here, what is it doing? It is the subjective complement of the verb is. That means we are trying to express my hobby is what? To draw. So that's the subjective complement of the verb is. So hence, to draw, this infinitive is functioning as a noun. Well, next, let's look into how does it function as an adjective. He has an interesting story to tell. So what will he tell? A story. So to tell, what is it doing? It is modifying the noun story. So that's the function of an adjective. So here, to tell, this infinitive is functioning as an adjective. Now, if we replace to tell with that he can tell, which is an adjective clause, what will happen? The sentence will become, he has an interesting story that he can tell. And that does make full sense. So here, it functions like an adjective after being replaced by the adjective clause. Does not function like a verb. So it is an infinitive. Next, the next sentence. He possesses the strength to resist. So again over here, he possesses the strength. How? To resist. That means he has the strength by which he can resist someone. If someone is, trying to threaten him or trying to forcefully do something to him. So he has the strength to resist that person. So to resist is modifying the noun strength. Hence, it is functioning as an adjective and not as a verb. Now the next sentence. Mango is a delicious fruit to eat. Now, what will you eat? The fruit. So, to eat, as it is very identifiable, that's the infinitive, to plus the base verb eat. So, what is it modifying? The fruit. The word fruit. So, since it is modifying fruit, which is a noun, it is functioning as an adjective. Well, the next, let's look into how does it function as an adverb. The student studied to excel. So, to excel is the infinitive, which is modifying the verb studied. Why? The student studied. It is telling us why he studied. To excel. So, that's functioning as an adverb because it's modifying the verb studied. Now, if we replace to excel with so he could excel, the sentence would look like the student studied so he could excel. Now, so he could excel is the adverbial clause. Now, when we replace to excel, the infinitive with this adverbial clause, it is functioning exactly like an adverb. It's not functioning like a verb. So it is an adverb. The infinitive is an adverb. Next, to win, we need a strong team. So here again, to win is modifying the verb need. Why do we need a strong team to win? So to win is telling us more about the verb or modifying the verb need. Hence, it is functioning as an adverb. Next, note, if inserting in order in front of an infinitive makes sense, then it is an adverbial infinitive. So that's very easy to understand. Like, let's check with the first sentence. The student studied to excel. So if we say the student studied in order to excel, it makes sense. So you've got the test. It's positive. So it's an adverbial infinitive. The next one. In order to win, we need a strong team. So there again, it's functioning. So that's an adverbial infinitive. Now, infinitive versus prepositional phrases. What is that? Well, just a minute. Now, sometimes we get confused between an infinitive and between a prepositional phrase beginning with to. So, to jump. Again, a prepositional phrase with to. So, how do we identify that whether it's an infinitive or whether it's a prepositional phrase? Well, it's very easy. Just a second. An infinitive is a verbal created from verbs. So that's the important point. That is to plus base verb. And we know the examples. To jump, to break, we've already done it. To save, to learn, to see, to do anything. Any verb and its base form plus it should be preceded by the word to. So that's the criteria. So it's very identifiable. You just look into it. See the word beside the to, whether it's a verb. If it's a verb, just you, without thinking anything, that's an infinitive. Now, for example, the sentence, Rena's little brother loves to jump on the bed. Now, what is to jump doing? To jump over here is telling us more about the word love. What does Rena's brother love? He loves to jump on the bed. So, to jump on the bed is actually an infinitive phrase, which is being the direct object of the verb loves. So, here, how do we understand that this is an infinitive phrase? As I told you, jump is a verb, so this is an infinitive phrase without any doubt. So, the next, now let's come to the prepositional phrase and try to understand how is it different. Whereas, a prepositional phrase beginning with to comprises of to plus noun or a pronoun and any modifiers. So that's how a prepositional phrase will be. What is its criteria? The main criteria will be after to there will be a noun or a pronoun. Because as we know, preposition is a word which precedes a noun, prepositioned. That means it's prepositioned before a noun or a pronoun and links that noun or pronoun with the rest of the sentence. So, now let's look into some examples. For example, to her. So here again, her, easily identifiable pronoun. So to her, prepositional phrase. To the members, noun. So it's a prepositional phrase without any doubt. To the beach. Again, the same thing. To this address. To them, to us. So to this address is a noun. So it's a prepositional phrase. To them, again a pronoun. So it's a prepositional phrase. To us, that's again a pronoun. So that's a prepositional phrase. So by now I think it's clear. It's very easy to identify an infinitive from a prepositional phrase beginning with to. So let's look into one of the sentences to understand it a little better. The club announced an extra bonus to be given to the members. So here you see, just looking at to the members, it's a noun. So without doubt, to the members is a prepositional phrase. Hope it's clear. Now, what are infinitive phrases? Well, An infinitive phrase is a group of words that consists of an infinitive, that's a must, the modifiers, and or noun, nouns, pronoun, pronouns, or noun phrase or phrases. Well, when it functions, it'll function like an infinitive. So when it functions as a noun, it occupies the same position in a sentence that a noun normally would. That is either as the subject or as an object or as a subjective complement of the verb. Next, when it functions as an adjective, it modifies a noun and follows it. So just like an adjective, it will modify the noun. So when it functions as an adverb, it modifies the verb. So just like an adverb would, it modifies the verb. For example, to win the game requires a lot of practice and perseverance. So over here, the infinitive phrase to win the game functions as what? As the subject of the verb requires. So hence it functions as a noun, being the subject of the verb. Next, in this phrase, to win the game, to win, of course, is the infinitive, and the game is the direct object of the action expressed by the infinitive. So the game is the direct object of the infinitive. Well, the next sentence. They wanted Rajat to be the mentor of the team. So in this sentence, the infinitive phrase Rajat to be the mentor of the team is the direct object of the verb wanted. Hence, it functions as a noun. Well, the infinitive phrase is colored gray and they are underlined and the verb is in blue for your easier understanding. Well, in this infinitive phrase, Rajat is what? It is the subject of the infinitive phrase. Okay? And of course, to be is the infinitive and the mentor is the subject complement of the state of being expressed by the infinitive. And of the team is the prepositional phrase, of course, of. So that's the preposition. So of the team is the prepositional phrase. And what does it do? It is acting as an adjective. Why? It is telling us the mentor of what? Of the team. So it is modifying the noun mentor. So it's acting as an adjective. Well, the next sentence. My hobby is to draw sketches. Of course, the infinitive phrase to draw sketches, what is it doing? It is being the subjective complement of the verb is. Hence, it's functioning as a noun here. To draw, of course, is the infinitive and sketches is the direct object of action expressed by the infinitive. So, let's move on to the next sentence. My mother asked me to buy some snacks. So, over here, the infinitive phrase is functioning as the direct object of the verb asked. And hence, it is functioning as a noun. So, over here, me is the subject of the infinitive phrase. To buy, of course, is the infinitive. And some snacks is the direct object of the action expressed by the infinitive phrase. Well, the next sentence. I showed Sean the easiest way to solve the math problem. So over here, the infinitive phrase to solve the math problem is acting as an adjective. Why? Because it is modifying the noun way. So what way? To solve the math problem. Easiest way to solve the math problem. So to solve the math problem is modifying the noun way and it is just beside it. It's following it. So for that reason, it is acting as an adjective. And in this infinitive phrase, to solve is the infinitive. The math problem is the direct object of action expressed by the infinitive. Now, the next sentence. The volunteers returned to help the victims. So in this sentence, the infinitive phrase to help the victims, what is it doing? It is trying to modify the verb returned. Why? Because the volunteers returned. Why did they return? To help the victims. So it's telling us more about the verb returned. So for that reason, it is acting as an adverb or functioning as an adverb. Now in this, to help, of course, is the infinitive and the victims is the direct object of action expressed by the infinitive. Now, the punctuation. So, The infinitive phrase requires a comma only if it functions as an adverb in the beginning of the sentence. So only when it's functioning as an adverb and it's placed at the beginning of the sentence, then it will be followed by a comma and then the rest of the sentence. Otherwise, if it's functioning as a noun or as an adjective or even as an adverb which is placed after the sentence, no punctuation is needed. So let's look into an example to understand it. To improve your work, you must be very meticulous and methodical. So, to improve your work, you must. So, it's telling us more about the word must. What you must do to improve your work. You must be very meticulous and methodical. So, here, since it's coming before the sentence, so for that reason, we have to put a comma, and that's how the punctuation. If it's an adverbial infinitive and if it's preceding the sentence, that means placed before the sentence, then we put a comma, otherwise no punctuation is required. Now, what are bare infinitives? In certain verbs, the to is dropped from the infinitives, leading to the formation of a bare infinitive. So, infinitive till now we have very well understood that it is preceded by the word to and then the base verb. But in certain cases, when that to is dropped from the infinitive and left with only the base verb, so that is called the bare infinitive. So the cases where bare infinitives are used are after auxiliary verb do, does, did, and after modal verbs. So the modal verbs, can, could, may, might, shall, should, must, will, or would. So for example, you can go home now. So after can, we are not saying to go. We are dropping the to and we are just using the base verb go. So that's how it becomes the bare infinitive. Next, did you consider the negative impact also? So again, after did, we are not using to consider. We are using only consider, dropping the to. So it's the infinitive form without the to. Next, Rita will take a break. Again, will, which is the modal verb. So here again, we have dropped the to from it. To take, we have dropped the to and have just taken the base verb. So that's how the infinitive form without the word to base is the bare infinitive. We might finish the project by Friday. Again, might, modal verb. We have dropped the to, made it a bare infinitive. Finish, we've used only finish. So it's the infinitive form without the to, which is the bare infinitive. Next, there should be an alternate plan too. So again, modal verb, we have dropped the infinitive form. We have dropped the to. So here, it's not to be, it's only be. So it's be, infinitive form without to. So that's the bare infinitive. Next. So, till now we have seen that after auxiliary verb, do, did, does, and after modal verbs, bare infinitives are always used. And next, after verbs of perception which have direct objects. For example, like feel, hear, any verb that through which we perceive, we express a feeling of perception. Verbs like feel, hear, help, let, make, notice, see, watch, etc. So after these verbs, when the infinitives are the direct objects, that means they're direct objects of these verbs, of these perceptive verbs or these verbs of perception, then we use the bare infinitives. That means the form of the infinitive without the to. For example, he heard the doorbell ring. See, heard. Then we are using the bare infinitive without the to. We are not saying he heard the doorbell to ring. We are saying he heard the doorbell ring, dropping the to. Next, the man made them give the money back. Again, made. So from made, we see we are not using the infinitive form. We are dropping the to and making it a bare infinitive. Just give. So the man made them give the money back. Let her come in. So again, after the verb let, we are using just the bare form of the infinitive. We are dropping the to and using just come. Let her come in. Next, The teacher made them do it again. Again, made. So, what have we done? We have dropped the to and used it as a bare infinitive. Just only do, not to do. Next. I watched them play the match. Again, watched, watch or watched, whatever is the form. Here again, what have we used? We have used the bare infinitive. We have dropped the to. I watched them play the match. Again, we have the verb watched, which will be followed by the bare infinitive, as I've already told you. Verb of perception. When it is acting as a direct object, then we drop the to from it. So, it is, I watched them play the match. Well, the next. What are split infinitives? Now, when infinitives, example, to admire, to love, to update, etc. So, as I've said, to plus the base form of the verb, so those are the infinitives, have additional words or an adverb between the to and the verb. So, between to and admire, if we insert some words or maybe an adverb, in that case, then a split infinitive occurs. So, that makes it a split infinitive. For example, so we had to admire. Now, if we say to secretly admire, so we're inserting an adverb in between to and admire. So, that becomes a split infinitive. Next, we had to love as an infinitive. Now, if we say to always love, we are inserting that adverb between the infinitive, to and love. So, it becomes a split infinitive. Again, we had to update. Now, if we insert regularly and say to regularly update, in that case, we are making it a split infinitive. Now, the split infinitive should be avoided. That means insertion of additional words between to and the verb of an infinitive is avoided in formal writing. So, it's not very appreciable when you write in your formal writing if you have these split infinitives. So, that's to be avoided. For example, I like to, in the evening, walk by the beach. Well, what have we done? We have split to walk, this infinitive, and we have inserted additional words, in the evening. Well, I like to, in the evening, walk by the beach. Now, this form is absolutely unaccepted. You cannot write it this way. But how can we write it then? Well, we can write it either in the evening. We're telling the time in the evening. I like to walk by the beach. So that's the revised form. You can write it this way, or you can also write, I like to walk by the beach in the evening. That's also fine. A split infinitive having an adverb between to and the verb is acceptable in informal context, especially if the moving adverb makes the sentence awkward. That means when we are in some informal context, like when we are just talking or something of that sort, suppose we place an adverb or we insert an adverb in an infinitive, okay, and make it a split infinitive. And if we remove that adverb and place it somewhere else, maybe it's hampering the meaning. The exact idea that we are trying to portray is not being very effective. So in that case, we use the split infinitives only with the adverbs where it's absolutely essential. For example, to properly prepare for my exam, I must study all my subjects. So here, to prepare is the infinitive and we have inserted properly the adverb and made it a split infinitive. And what is this word properly doing? This word is trying to emphasize how should we prepare. We should prepare properly. So the word prepare is being emphasized by this adverb. Now, but if we say to prepare properly for my examination, I must study all my subjects. To prepare properly. So over here, when we remove the inserted adverb and place it beside the infinitive, so the properly, what happens? The emphasis which was initially there on the word properly, on the adverb properly, is somehow missing. Because to properly prepare for my examination, I must study all my subjects. So that's the emphasis. But if we say to prepare properly for my examination, I must study all my subjects. So here, there is no emphasis on the word properly. Next, to prepare for my examination, I must properly study all my subjects. So if I now totally remove it from there and put it beside must, so what is it doing? It is emphasizing on the verb must. I must properly study. Well, I'm not trying to convey that idea. What I'm trying to convey is what I must properly prepare. Properly prepare. So in an informal context, we are at freedom rather to use a split infinitive, but not in formal contexts or in formal writing. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And regarding the comparison of infinitives with gerunds, well, I'll be making a separate video for it. So stay tuned. Thank you for being there with me. If you like the content, do give a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Do consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell icon for future updates. Bye. Take care. See you in the next one.